Hello. Can the student from the upstairs come please and downstairs? The student from upstairs please come to downstairs. Thank you.
record us, but I don't know how to do it. It's him.
Do you wonder what the AIU Social Business Videocast is all about? Well, my name is Aisha Bojang, and together with my partner,
Hi, Ikra Asif, and here we are going to explore inspiring minds at Albukhary International University.
So stay tuned at the AIU Social Business Videocast.
Salangka, Gurmuka, Dunia. And here we are going to explore inspiring minds at Albukhary
The story of paper reverse actually came from Zimbabwe. He was a master, by the way. You could not beat him in any game. I remember I only beat him in one game out of more than 100 games I played with him.
So that's where I see like impact. That's where I got inspired making impact also.
So many ideas online, so many ideas in the world that can come into your mind.
Let's remember, if you're passionate, you want it to fly high, you have to sacrifice. I got inspired making impact also.
So many ideas online, so many ideas in the world that can come into your mind.
Let's remember, if you're passionate, you want it to fly high, you have to sacrifice. I got inspired making impact also.
So many ideas.
Testing.
testing 1 2.
Testing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to ask you to kindly put your phones on silent. Thank you.
Should I try my mic? 1, 2, 3.
Like in our time.
They're gonna come at 12.
Yeah.
Us behaving be like.
Yeah.
Welcome to Albukhary International University and to the International Conference on Reorienting Sustainable Development Goals through the concept of 3 Zeros. Today we will delve into pivotal discussion that will shape our future and redefine our commitment to integrating social business initiative for sustainable development through 3 Zeros.
At this conference, we aim to showcase best practices, innovative ideas, and successful initiatives that leverage social business models and the 3 Zeros concept to advance the SDGs.
Let us harness the power of collaboration, innovation, and education to create a world where SDGs, zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero carbon emissions are not just aspirations, but realities.
Let's explore the role of SDG, social business, and the 3 Zeros framework, and hope that this conference will inspire generation of leaders who are not only equipped with academic knowledge, but are also committed to driving meaningful change in the society.
Benefit from our international conference on reimagining sustainable development goals through the 3 Zero concept at Albukhary International University. Be a part of the global movement towards a sustainable future.
We would like to invite everyone to the exhibition area just outside the Convovation Hall. There is an inspiring lineup of our campus printer and collaborators who showcase homegrown products. Among the exhibitors, we have got AIU Shop, Paper Reefers, Bow Stitch, Aroma Revive, Riverstone Refillery, Elliott Gallery, AIU Merchandise, and food and beverage kiosks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Distinguished guests and members of the Albukhary International University Committee. We hope you have all registered as we awaited our esteemed speaker.
Feel free to scan the QR codes around you to submit your questions for the upcoming Q&A session.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we dive deeper into the exciting world of the SDGs and 3 Zeros, we hope that you can take a moment to watch a special video presentation about the upcoming Sustainable Development Goal Conference.
Welcome to Albukhary International University and to the International Conference on Reorienting Sustainable Development Goals through the concept of 3 Zeros. Today we will delve into pivotal discussion that will shape our future and redefine our commitment to integrating social business initiative for sustainable development through 3 Zeros.
At this conference, we aim to showcase best practices, innovative ideas, and successful initiatives that leverage social business models and the 3 Zeros concept to advance the SDGs.
Let us harness the power of collaboration, innovation, and education to create a world where SDGs, zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero carbon emissions are not just aspirations, but realities.
Let's explore the role of SDG, social business, and the 3 Zeros framework, and hope that this conference will inspire generation of leaders who are not only equipped with academic knowledge, but are also committed to driving meaningful change in the society.
Benefit from our international conference on reimagining sustainable development goals through the 3 Zero concept at Albukhary International University. Be a part of the global movement towards a sustainable future.
Kompang bergema pusaka bangsa, dibalu oleh si anak muda. Hadir tuan meriah suasana, kami menyambut penuh gembira. Profesor Emeritus Dato Dr. Abdul Aziz Tajuddin, AIU Vice Chancellor and President.
Associate Professor Dr. Suraya Hanim Mokhtar, Albukhary International University Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation.
Eminent guest, Professor Charles Hopkins.
Miss Catherine Cole.
Tuan Haji Muhammad Asmi bin Johari, Plant General Manager, Tuanku Jafar Power Station, Genco.
Associate Professor Dr. Afifi Lati, Dean and Faculty of Education from Prince of Songkla University.
Professor Dr. Syed Faizul Hassan Shah and Mr. Callum Mackenzie, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand.
Madam Nurpisa Mat Isa, Registrar of AIU.
Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Shahram, Dean of SEHS.
Distinguished speakers of the plenary session,
Conference collaborators,
esteemed guests, and
AIU community. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A lovely morning for everyone. My name is Abdul Muhaimin from Indonesia, majoring in media and communication with my partner,
Aisha Bojang from the Gambia, majoring in business administration.
It is our pleasure to be your host for today's event. Welcome to the AIU Public Lecture Series 6, Sustainable Development Goals through 3 Zeros, Approach and Practice. To break the ice for AIU PLS 6, we are delighted to invite Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Abdul Aziz Tajuddin, AIU Vice Chancellor and President, to say a few words.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah amma ba'd. Yang saya hormati saudara-saudari penghormatan majlis, ladies and gentlemen, I will read the text because only a few words. Normally we are running short of time, so that I will not be deviating into other things. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the Public Lecture Series number 6 and the International Conference on Reimagining SDGs Through 3 Zeros, Approaches and Best Practices. This event brings together brilliant minds and dedicated individuals committed to shaping a sustainable future. I would like to extend a special welcome to our keynote speaker, Professor Charles Hopkins, UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Education towards Sustainable from York University in Toronto, Canada. We are indeed privileged to have you with us today. Your pioneering work in sustainable education serves as an inspiration to us all. My heart thanks also go to the community members a comprehensive framework for action and innovation. We are fortunate to have Professor Charles Hopkins, a renowned expert and advanced advocate for sustainable development in education, as our keynote speaker. For the information of Prof. Charles, this will be our first in the field of SDG, because previously the 5 lectures revolve around our niche area, that is social business. In fact, we have got one of our previous speaker, Ms. Anja, in the audience today. Thank you very much for coming and joining us today. At Albukhary International University, we are deeply committed to integrating sustainability into our educational framework and community engagement. We believe in fostering a generation of leaders equipped to address global challenges through innovative and sustainable solutions. After this conference is not just about an event, but a call to action. It is a platform for collaboration, learning, and inspiring change. I encourage all of you to actively participate, share your insights, and foster partnership that will continue beyond this conference. In closing, I wish you all a productive and enlightening conference. Let us work together to reimagine and realize a world where the 3 zeros are not just about aspiration, but realities. Thank you, and may we have a fruitful and inspiring discussion ahead. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Emeritus, for that heartwarming speech and the welcoming remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome our distinguished speaker, Professor Charles Hopkins, UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Education towards Sustainability at York University, Canada.
Professor Charles Hopkins will be joining us for the 2-day international conference, Reimagining SDGs Through 3 Zeros, hosted by Albukhary International University in collaboration with the Faculty of Education, Prince of Songkla University,
Tuanku Jafar Power Station, TNB Genko,
UNIS Thailand,
Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand,
AIU 30 Club,
and AIU Social Business Journal. This conference is a significant milestone in our collective journey to achieve the 3 zeros concept, which are zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emission, within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals.
The 3 zeros embodies our shared aspiration for a sustainable future, and we do hope that this conference will explore practical approaches and showcase innovative solutions that can drive meaningful change towards achieving these goals.
Ladies and gentlemen, the AIU Public Lecture Series is a carefully curated collection of insightful lectures that reflect the core values of Albukhary International University. The series is an essential part of our mission to spread knowledge through engaging public talks.
It provides our community and the general public with a unique opportunity to hear from exceptional speakers, renowned scholars, and leading thinkers on a variety of topics. Moreover, it serves as an important platform for promoting intellectual discussion of lifelong learning. For additional information, you may watch our public lecture series on our official YouTube channel.
Correct. And before we begin, I would like to say that today's PLS topic is very interesting and different than the previous ones. In the past, we have discussed social business in PLS, focusing on solving social issues by successful social entrepreneurs in Malaysia. But this time, it's different. This time, we will learn how social issues can be addressed through a unique approach known as the 3 zeros.
That's right, everybody. Today's lecture, we will explore the connection between the SDGs and the 3 Zeros. For those who may not be familiar with the SDGs, they stand for Sustainable Development Goals, which was curated by the United Nations, designed to be a blueprint for achieving a better and more sustainable future for all.
The 3 Zeros approach, which we will explore into today, focuses on 3 main objectives. First, zero poverty, then zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emissions. This approach integrates these goals into practical strategies that can be implemented at various levels of society.
It is absolutely fascinating to see how these ideas can be intertwined to create a sustainable and equitable future. And who better to explain this to us than our esteemed speaker, Professor Charles Hopkins.
And now, it is my honor to introduce our esteemed speaker for today. Professor Charles Hopkins holds the UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Education towards Sustainability at York University in Toronto, Canada, and serves as Special Advisor to the Provost on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. He is also the co-director of the Asia-Pacific Institute on ESD in Beijing, China.
Now, the UNESCO Chair, which was established in 1999, was the first to focus on education for sustainable development. It is an essential concept for quality education and to position sustainability as a purpose of education. Professor Hopkins coordinates 2 global ESD research networks aiming to enhance ESD in teacher training and embed sustainability to improve education outcomes for Indigenous children and youth.
Absolutely. With his extensive background and contributions to the field of sustainable development, we are indeed privileged to have him with us today. Without further ado, please join us in welcoming Professor Charles Hopkins to share his valuable insights on SDGs through 3 Zeros approach and practice. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Professor Charles Hopkins.
First of all, thank you. First of all, thank you for those who researched my introduction. At times, when you get to be my age, when you read the things that I've done, it's almost like an obituary. So I'm thank you very much. Vice Chancellor Aziz, honored guests, fellow speakers, students, thank you so much for inviting me to be here as part of this series. It's really an innovative approach of trying to blend the economic aspects with the social justice aspects and with environmental concerns. This is something that we're struggling with all around the world. And a special thanks also to the students yesterday who spoke with me during that international gathering of food and sort of introduction to customs of other countries. I think back to my early days when I grew up in a small village in northern Canada. None of my parents or relatives had ever graduated beyond grade 6. And so when I graduated from grade 8 in elementary school, I was the first in the group. And then I graduated from secondary school. And then I wanted to go to university, but there was no funding or money. And so this is why I really, my heart goes out as to as to the purpose of this particular university. I joined the military in order to get an education, but the military and I did not agree very long. They didn't appreciate my creativity and ways that they should be doing things differently. So at any rate, I started teaching because in those days, with a high school degree, you could teach elementary schools. And so I began my teaching career. And while I was teaching, I earned my bachelor's degree part-time. And then I received a scholarship and went on to a master's degree. And my teaching became a school principal. The principal then became a school superintendent in the city of Toronto, and so on. I'm saying this because the need to look beyond, to think bigger is an important thing. I have now lectured in over 75 countries around the world. That young person who graduated from grade 8. It is possible, so I'm just leaving it there. But the idea of the big picture of the Sustainable Development Goals and what is happening in the world, the fear one has. When I first went to university from that little village, I was in trepidation trying to fit in. But enough of that. I want to talk about, first of all, the big picture behind the Sustainable Development Goals and so on. The World Economic Forum is one that I kind of look towards. The World Economic Forum each year publishes the kind of risks that are out there. And if you look on the left, you will see the current risks that are there. And they're in different colors. The purple is sort of the IT risks that are out there. The green, of course, are environmental risks. But for most of you, look at the second one, because that's 10 years out. That's the world that you will be graduating into. And by that time, many of you will have assumed positions and so on in the real world. And you will see how environmental issues and what has come around them, how they have now risen to the top. And we think they will rise to the top because we are unable to move to address them now. And what we need to struggle with and get at it as fast as we possibly can is how can we address what we already see is there and what we have the technology to deal with, but we do not have the political will or the social ability to maneuver to really address them. Now, no one country can address them, but if we in the 1980s, that almost 30 years ago, countries were talking with one another, how can we work together to address this? And I think the story, most of you will know that in 1987, the Prime Minister of Norway, Gro Harlem Brundtland, produced an idea that after having traveled around the world talking to people about what we should do collectively. I was so fortunate in Canada, I was put myself on the list and said, I would like to give my ideas. And I was accepted, presented my ideas. They didn't accept them, and they had better ones. But at least the idea of becoming engaged, right? Assume your citizenship, talk to people. And so what the world agreed to was, okay, we need to figure out how we can develop further, how we can do it in a manner that won't limit the ability of future generations. Right? So how can we meet the needs, not necessarily the greed, as Gandhi says? We can meet the needs, but not the greed of everyone, without preventing future generations from meeting theirs. So this is the definition. I like the definition that along the bottom. This came from an indigenous elder in Africa and trying to explain the concept of sustainable development. He said it's about enough for all, forever. Enough for all, forever. And think of the discussions you can have about what is enough. You know, one of the 3 R's being refuse, right? So you have the idea of enough, but an indigenous person, this is important. What does for all mean? For all Africans? For all people? Or for all living things, right? So in that bigger indigenous wisdom of looking after all, and forever, of course, being the intergenerational. Now the UN, that was the concept, sustainable development. But what do? You say, okay, we're going to follow sustainable, but we need to come up with a plan. And so what the UN has been doing all along is to be developing a plan. The first plan was finally agreed upon after 5 years, from 1987 to 1992, of agreeing and countries negotiating. I'll give up this, if you give up that, I'll do this, etc. And so in 1992, they agreed upon the Agenda 21. There were 40 different things that the world's leaders could agree upon. And then that went to the year 2000. From 2015 on, we had the Millennium Development Goals. And then in 2015, we came in with the Sustainable Development Goals. But underneath that, you can see in Agenda 21, there was a whole chapter on education, public awareness, and training. In the Millennium Development Goals, during that time, we also came forward with the UN Decade on education for sustainable development. And education was one of the Sustainable Development Goals. In the Paris Agreement, that there is a part in there on the importance of education, public awareness, and training. And so we're at ESD for 2030, that again is a UNESCO program, and I'll come back to that in a few moments. It's about the importance of education. The other thing that is evolved and changed is that the concept of sustainable development grew slightly. In the beginning, we talked about how do we address social issues, environmental issues, and economic issues. But we have added to those 3 and changed the names now. The environment has become planet, social has become people, the economy has become prosperity, but we've also added peace. Not just between nations, but peace in our culture, within countries, as well as between countries. The concept, even inner peace, with so many people struggling with sort of, well, being upset mentally with their own well-being and who they are. So that concept of peace. And the other is realizing we need partnerships. Partnerships is the 5th one. We've learned in the last 25 years, countries cannot do this on their own. They're negotiating, they're doing their thing, but that is not working as well. But if we look at what education has done, when we're looking into what education, the component of it in the Sustainable Development Goals, we see that there are a number of issues. We have the just before we get there, if we could mention about the current progress that we're making. We're having a real, as I say, countries trying to work on their own. It really just doesn't matter. It doesn't work that well. We have tremendous setbacks. Often the politics. Our political leaders can't agree to anything that will get them put out of government in their own country. So they have to build the support of their people within their own country in order to move forward. So that becomes a huge issue. Now, what seems to be happening, though, the good news is that as we move, this is where things are stalling, but the good news is at the local level. This is where things really are happening, because we're not negotiating. It's about people coming together to look at how they can fix things for themselves. And so at that international level, where they're relying on wealthy countries to give poorer countries money to go and do things, what they're trying to do at the local level is to blend social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice together. So how do we make money? How do we build an economy, right? Social business? How do we, at the same time, earn money, employ people, and do good works, both environmentally and socially? So that is something that is emerging. And when I was invited to come here, I thought, I have to come and learn and see the kind of thing that you're doing here. So taking those big goals, the lofty goals of, and bringing them down into sort of a meaningful and doable kind of approach, that is where we really want to be. So if we look at your program here and we talk about the 3 zeros, Mohan Yunus talks about zero poverty, zero unemployment, and net carbon. You can see how each one of these engages many of the others. You can't just deal with zero poverty without talking about employability. If you go, we talk about abject poverty, but we never talk about abject wealth, with people with just so much wealth and not doing constructive, good things with that wealth. That becomes an issue. But what I like to think about of all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is some people say I'm a specialist in SDG 6, or I'm a specialist in that. Think of it as a patchwork quilt, right? Just one is not going to keep you warm. You have to have them all because they are all intertwined. They're knitted together. When people are out of work, the social justice isn't there. They can't feed people. They can't afford rent. You have housing and so on. So this is why I think that this is so important. Now we get back to the idea of, okay, we've got the sustainable development going, but what is the role of education? And so one of the things that they come up with is in the global agenda, there is SDG 4 on education, and the overall goal is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education. And I'll come back to this question. What is quality? What is quality for the future, right? And so the things that we're talking about, there are these 7 targets For instance, we've upgraded from the Millennium Goals of having everyone having a primary education now to everyone having a graduating from secondary school. No country really is there yet because even the wealthiest countries are having trouble with some students who have difficulty learning to read and so on. So we're still working on that. But the one that we want to talk about, the 4.3, the affordable quality, again that word quality, technical, vocational, and tertiary education. It's very, very important that we try and get as many people up into tertiary education as we possibly can. But 4.7, that knowledge and skills for sustainable development. Now, if we combine the knowledge and skills for sustainable development with higher education, and there is a purpose in that because so few people graduate from university comparatively around the world. And yet those who do graduate, you, will disproportionately represent the leadership of the world. Right? You will be the politicians, the head of enterprise. You'll be our poets, our writers, our thinkers, media, right? Our religious leaders. So it's so important that during your time in university, you consider the impact of your leadership as you move through this world. So if we look at the next one, that target 4.7, when you go beyond just the one line, you can see that it says by 2030, ensure all learners acquire the knowledge and skills through education for sustainable development. And also it talks about global citizenship, the kind of thing that I saw yesterday and so admired. But that whole quilt of them all together, up there, the number 4, the United Nations General Assembly has stated that not only is education important, but education for sustainable development is the key enabler of all the Sustainable Development Goals. You can't address the research in climate change without educated people. You can't really deal with poverty without economists and people who are trained. So the whole concept of education is there really at the very beginning of the whole thing. Now we talk about education for sustainable development. I say, well, what is that? And again, I had the great fortune in the late 1980s, early 1992, to be one of about 10 people who was brought together to talk about what is the role of education for sustainable development as we built it into that first implementation plan, Agenda 21. And there were the 10 of us. We were from all different parts of the world, some from higher education, some from business, some from non-government organizations, and so on, UN agencies. And I can remember one of the persons, he was actually the president of a big American university, and he said, we just need to have people recycling. If we taught everyone to recycle, that would be good. And the president of the University of Cairo in Egypt said, sir, I have roughly 400,000 children who are very, very good at recycling. They spend their life living in the dumps of Cairo, picking through the dump for plastic, paper, and metal. What they need is an education. And so that changed our whole mind, but it can't just be about the environment. Right? It can't just be about that. It's about social justice, and it's about the economics of it all. And so for the very first thing of education for sustainable development was that target of access and retention in quality education. But the second thing is we realized that it was our most educated countries that were creating some of the deepest ecological footprints. And so giving everybody the education of the educated North, that was creating the problem. It's because of the progress that we have made and what we envision as progress and the goodies we have that go to make our lives easier and so on, and the way we produce them, what we dream for, what we want, how we get them. All of that was what was creating the problem. So we needed to reorient the very purpose of education. The third thing, well, of course, was that building of public support, public understanding and awareness of what it is we're doing. We have to have the general public on board. One of Napoleon Bonaparte's great lines was, never be so far out in front of the troops that they think you are the enemy, right? So politicians have to stay and talk with the people, be with them, educate them, bring them along. Now, no, not everyone trusts politicians, but they do trust education systems. And so it's important to embed the big picture, what really is happening. We know where migration is going to be coming from climate change. We know the countries that are becoming unlivable because of climate change. We know the areas that will be submerged and flooded, but are we preparing for their movement? You know, the political strife. We're aware of that, but we can't seem to move because we can't get the general public on board to see that we are all on one little island and that we all need to work together. So we need to think of this, and when we add the training component to it, that too is extremely important. So as well as they talked about as education for sustainable development, they also mentioned global citizenship. And that is this feeling that we're all in this together. Global citizen doesn't mean you give up your own citizenship or at all and become a global, no. It's a feeling of care, it's a feeling of concern and so on for everyone. This is the building the compassion to want to care for everyone. That's one aspect. The second aspect is the skills to become involved as a citizen, to pick up your right, to speak up, to become engaged, to organize other people, to get the speaking skills, the organizational skills. How do you build groups together? How do you listen? As well as leadership, we need followership. And how do we become in there collectively? So these are two big important aspects that I think need to be built into everything. But all of that, of course, comes with the need for transforming our education systems. Our parents have an expectation that school would be something like what they went to. And so trying to transform education and the system itself is extremely difficult. But we do understand a bit about how to transform the learner. And it's essentially through these steps. First of all, the acquisition of knowledge, and so on. But secondly, being able to look at that knowledge and be critical of it. You know, is this right? How do you take what is information today? One of the greatest problems, and we saw it in my opening slide, of fake news. Right? Disinformation that is being put out there. So the idea of being able to work your way through that. But the third step is that experiential exposure, actually engaging with other people, being engaged with the issues in your community, addressing those issues, and learning by doing, and so on. That is a step that most universities do not have. Certainly it's a step that most secondary schools do not have. And that is what we need to be thinking of. How do we transform how people learn? Okay, that's so important. Because it is with that time together with people from other cultures, people in dealing with situations, that we build the compassion within ourselves, that we are able to, in lifelong journey of looking out for others and the well-being of others. So the whole idea then of UNESCO trying to deal with that, they have come up with sort of a strategy that UNESCO works with countries. And so what they've done is they've put together this idea of transforming education, number one, addressing the policy that is there. If it isn't there as you should do it, or at least you can do it, you can spend money to do it. So often schools and universities are hampered because it's not part of their mission. It's not part of what, they have to justify what they do. If they're going to change the curriculum in some way, it has to be there. So policy is extremely important to be able to deal with that. And then the next one, though, is to transform the learning environment. How people even meet, how do they learn? What do they study online? What do they study in the community? Transforming even the classroom size, the flexibility, that sort of thing. The biggest problem, globally speaking, is that the educators themselves, the teachers, the 60 or 70 million teachers in the world themselves, have not been trained. They fall back on how they were taught, and that becomes part of it. But so we don't facilitate either in-service programs, and we don't facilitate even in an institution often, of bringing teachers together to think and to dream, how could we do things better? What it is that we're trying to do? What really is the purpose of education and so on? And then the importance that I'll come back to a couple of times is the importance of empowering youth, right? So that how do you give them, for instance, the experience this morning of being the MCs? How do we nurture and bring that along? And again, how do we engage at the local level, move beyond the other? Now, education, every about 25 years, UNESCO leads global thinking on changing education, its purpose, and so on. Pardon me. After the Second World War, we had a huge shift in global how we approached education. The purpose of education became, how can we help the individual become all they can be? And it became very individual-centered for the student. We come up with individual learning programs and so on in schools. Now what we're seeing is globally so many people who are out for themselves and not thinking necessarily about the common good. And so this is one of the huge changes that we're thinking about. You know, originally schools over 1,000 years ago was largely about religion, so that people would be able to read the holy books. Then public education came forward so that to develop sort of nationalism, national spirit, cultural, who we are, and be able to read our history and who we are as a people. After the Second World War, though, it was much more about developing, as I say, this human capital. And now it's becoming even more with the funding from government into higher education, or into public education at the secondary school level, it's almost looking at it through return on investment for those of you from the economic background, as opposed to what the well-being of not only the individual, but the well-being of society, and as our indigenous leader said, the well-being of all, not just humans. Now, this shift is not, after imagining the futures, this kind of shift of infusing global citizenship, education for sustainable development, and UNESCO and the UN asking for different, for research into different aspects. If we could have the next slide, please. Yeah, the idea of higher education embedding, say, both ESD and global citizenship, and then these are the kinds of areas that they are calling for research. All I'm saying is that there is this synergy with universities, the community, with the private sector, and so on, and building and moving forward. But it also goes beautifully, of course, with youth. If the next slide, please. We're talking about how youth around the world are really concerned about climate change. And I think for good reason. We realize that it is happening. And it's not just the temperature that's changing. It's the migration that is changing, the change of how people will earn their living. Agriculturalists are proving that with even the growing season changing, some countries are winning, many countries aren't. And so the poor of the world who are living in marginalized lands, where it goes from drought to flood. I was in Africa not long ago in Mali, and I saw some students, university students, and they were trying to talk about climate change. And what they had one student coming, and he had a big pail. It looked like a big pail of water, and a number of other students begging him for a drink and shaking his head no. And then he took the pail and threw the whole thing on them. And it was showing that we go from drought to flood, and that water is useless, you know. But it was a beautiful way of young people being able to portray the message in such a simple and positive way. But it's saying youth certainly do care. But it's learning how we engage youth. This is extremely important as well. UNESCO is putting through a number of documents of listening, allowing them to make mistakes, creating new ideas, and so on, and even engaging them in their ideas. And next, please. UNESCO is also coming forward with the idea of having countries report every 4 years on the progress that they are making with education for human rights, education for peace, and education for sustainable development. And this university would be a fantastic place to be a lighthouse and moving forward with this. Next, please. And so the whole idea, and to get back to the social business, we're looking at sustainability science. That is science that looks on what is sustainable development. It's about sustainable development, but it's also science for sustainable development. Obviously, we are thinking about environmental research, not just into climate change, but the dying of our coral reefs, the manufacturing programs and so on. This is important, but it's extremely important to go back to how do we get the general public to support change, to raise taxes to pay for this? How do we change business and industry to actually be a part of this positive social change? This is the huge question. So we need the sciences, not only into the physical sciences and the natural sciences, but the social sciences, and the philosophy of what is well-being. All of these sciences need to be engaged. Next, please. Oh, the idea of not only science and technology, engineering, mathematics, and so on, but also the arts. You know, how can we use biomimicry? How do we bring together the metallurgists and so on with the natural scientists? The famous Japanese high-speed trains, the front of it was designed on the bill of the kingfisher, the bird that can dive straight into the water and the bill pierces it. Now what the Japanese have done is that they are also working on the mouth of the duck-billed platypus, because they found that the needle nose, as they go through tunnels, and there are many tunnels in Japan, set up shock waves. But the platypus, who can swim through shallow creeks without making any waves, so they're taking this in the whole term of biomimicry. So the idea of looking around, how is it done in nature? How can we capture 4 billion years of free research? And how can we put this into the ways that we think, right? So just an idea along that line. Now, the idea of getting back to the idea, it was our most educated people that were creating the real problems. So how can we break out of that? And the idea of, first of all, disciplinary research so we really understand one particular thing, but then multidisciplinary. How can we get people talking together and learn how do they do it? Well, maybe that would help me. And then moving on from multidisciplinary, we want to move into what we refer to as transdisciplinary, where we engage the general public. And I particularly put this in here because you can have academics from many different fields coming together, but we need to implement it. So we need to have the local knowledge, the local social culture, what is relevant in that community, and bring that together. So we have business and industry at the same time. We have the not-for-profits. We may even have the religious community involved, because we do need to come up with something that is not only relevant, culturally appropriate, and doable, right, in that particular community. So the work that you're doing in solving these wicked issues and so on is extremely important. Some communities, we have just a quick look at the regional centers of expertise. This is a formal program. You have, I think, 5 of these in Malaysia. There's a program set up by the United Nations University where they bring together the educators in the community, the formal ones, schools and universities, along with non-formal ones, so as zoos, botanical gardens, people who have a particular message, non-government organizations, and even informal, the local media and so on to report. And how can we collectively work on what are the local manifestations of zero poverty and the other sustainable development goals. In doing that, universities themselves are trying to think of, it's not just what we teach. We have to go beyond what we model. What do we research? You know, Gandhi's great line about my life is my message. You know, how you live your life is really what you're saying. So how do universities operate? Now you're seeing universities in my country, in Canada, where students are boycotting or demonstrating, practicing their global citizenship over Palestine, saying our university is investing money in arms manufacturing and so on. That should not be. And so this idea of social justice that is out there. So it's the university is rethinking who they are and what they are modeling. The university itself can be a living laboratory. My university is 50,000. That's a city. But that we can monitor every drop of water pretty well that comes onto campus, the energy flow that is there. We can adjust our energy so that we don't peak and charge large amounts. The research that can be done in this live setting that can support the whole community is really extremely important. So the idea of our universities, I say, becoming lighthouses for the world is so very, very important. And in closing, I just want to inspire you in a way of saying, we have the next slide, please? Yeah. To be thinking about where we are. In 1987, the best idea we could come up with that world leaders would agree upon was the concept of sustainable development. That was a long time ago. And we haven't been able to come up with a better one, not because it's so good, but we can't get agreement on what's better. You know, for those of you up here, the questions you should be raising, sustaining what? The injustices that are in the world? And for whom do we sustain things? My generation has used roughly 50% of the world's oil. Who will use the remaining 50%? Likely, if we just keep going as it is, it'll be the people who can afford it. Where's the social justice in that? So think of the litter that my generation is putting in outer space. The hundreds of thousands of small particles that all have to be tracked. These are bullets that are zipping around. How much junk can we put up in outer space? I was in China not that long ago, and this was high school students questioning the moral authority of their country to be continually polluting outer space, impinging upon things for future generations. And so the idea, we need to be critical of where we are, but not just tear it apart. We have to be thinking of something that is better, something that will have a combination of social justice, environmental justice, economic justice, but doable, where we can gather and bring people together. And our graduates of our universities having the skills to be able to do that, to be able to tackle the wicked issues that lie in front of us all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. Okay, do I take this? Okay. I guess we're going to have a few minutes if you have any comments or questions or just pushback, things that you don't agree with, whatever, okay? Thank you.
Testing. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Hopkins, for that insightful lecture. And I think if there's anything that we can take from that, is that to become sustainable in the future, we have to think like global citizens. We have to take into consideration that we have to give back to our community. And it's not just about today, it's about tomorrow as well. So for now, we would like to open the floor for a question and answer session. Our distinguished guests, you may walk to the nearest microphone to ask a question. And for the students, you may scan the QR codes around and send in your questions. Thank you very much.
Prof. Hello, Prof. Good morning. Hello, dear all guests today. I have one question for you, Prof. Just now you mentioned that society tends to trust education system more than politicians. However, it is often observed that education system is used by politicians to assert their influence and agenda. What's your take on this matter, Prof? Thank you. By the way, I'm Nurul Aina from UITM Sabah. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was there a question in that? It was just a comment? Yes. I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing up here. Did you have a question?
Ms.
yeah.
Aina,
Here.
if I may help?
I'm so sorry.
Prof, my question is about just now, you mentioned that politicians tend to be more trusted, the education tend to be more trusted than the politician. However, politicians, they always interfere in the education policy. So what's your take on that matter, Prof? Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, the education itself is very, very slow to change, and of course, the policy that that government brings forward sort of is like a big anchor on the education ship. Now, sometimes that's good because people can have various ideas and go, but I think the best way that I have seen where is in Finland. In Finland, every 10 years, they write the whole curriculum in elementary and secondary school. Usually, national governments don't do too much in higher education. They do in some countries where they point and so on. But in Finland, they rewrite the curriculum. 1/3 of the curriculum comes from the central government. 1/3 of the curriculum comes from the community. So you have to spend a lot of time talking with the parents and what do you want children to learn, what should they learn, what is our community like, and so on. And 1/3, the last third, comes from the teachers and the students in the school. so that it really is local, it's meaningful, it's relevant. The teachers feel it's their curriculum that they are teaching, as opposed to what happened in my country at a time when I was the school superintendent, is that we were working along that line, and suddenly we had a very right-wing government come in and said, everybody in the whole area will teach, you will have one curriculum, this is what you'll be doing. So even the indigenous students away in the north who were being taught how to survive and live, that had to go, and they had to learn about shopping malls and had to learn about urban life and so on. It made no sense. And a student, I went right down. So that question about how much government say in education is an extremely important one, because it's not as though the government knows. What the government is listening to are vocal people in the community. That's one. The other one is the private sector. The private sector want to download their training programs onto public education. So they want to teach as much as they possibly can in schools so to make them fit for work. Right? But where do we come up with the well-being and what should students know, be able to do, and value 30 years from now? So it's that kind of balance where we need discussion. Good. Is there any other comment? I know we're running late, so if there are no other questions.
Dear Professor Charles Hopkins, my question is, I'm not sure whether my question is duplicated with the former one, the latest one. I'm sorry, so sorry, but I want to know that as education dominates sustainable development, of course, so I would like to know in what area of the world, in what continents, in what, I don't want to say in what country, but in what regions of the world that sustainable development needs a very crucial improvement in terms of ESD implementations. Thank you.
So what the question? What country is good with social development?
What regions or what parts of the world? I would say I don't want to focus on secular country is dangerous, is not polite. So sorry. So in what continents, in what regions, or if you want to identify in what country is fine, needs a particular sustainable development implemented.
I think from what I'm seeing, each region of the world has its own problems and how it can move forward. For instance, China now is really, they see the future with the problems that they will have. Okay? And what they are trying to do is to keep serving the people with energy. So they're number one in the world with wind power and so on. Number one in the one with solar, huge hydroelectric, and so on. But what I admire in what China is doing is that they are wrapping the concept of sustainable development into their cultural context of civilization. And so they are trying, they don't talk about sustainable development that much, they talk about ecological civilizations so that it relates to people. And, you know, because when we talk about sustainable development, most people say, what? it doesn't get you here. And this is where we have to have the knowledge and do the right thing. We have to get up and do it. You know, we need the hands, but we need the heart. We need to, so that what we're doing, what we're thinking, and what we're doing, it's for everyone, and not just for us trying to move forward. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be around for both days. I'd love to get further into that idea of how we can engage the social, and how do we frame it? How do we talk about it? How do we really engage people? Because in my country and Canada and the others, they think about sustainable development means we're going to have to give up the good life. And I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up anything, you know. And so we have to overcome what do we really want, and so on. So one of the big groups that we need to engage in this transdisciplinary way is public relations, the advertising world, all of that, because we need to learn ourselves how to even talk about this in a way that we can relate to people. Okay? All right, one more, and then I'll quit.
Good morning, and thank you for your talk, especially sharing your journey with us. That was very inspiring. I have one problem with the 17 SDGs, and that's the fact that it's 17. I used to be a leftist at heart in some ways, so for me it was always social inequality and eradication of poverty and all these kind of things, but I think your talk again has highlighted the importance of education so much. And for me the question is, don't we dilute the importance of some of these SDGs, which are so relevant in order to combat the others, that we lose focus in some way? You said that 9 of these other SDGs are referring to education. So isn't education something that we should put special emphasis on when tackling the SDGs in general? Or don't we otherwise risk losing focus if we work on this one and that one and that one and that one? What's your take on that?
Yeah, the whole thing is about trade-offs. Because if we try to work on just one in isolation, it impacts on all the others. Everything is interrelated. That's how I was trying to get over the point. You can't just work on one. In Canada, we had a huge fish stock off our east coast of codfish. And so we noticed that European fishers were coming in and taking a lot. We had our rules and regulations and so on, and they were depleting the fish stock. And so the local people were saying, hey, our fishing, our rules are such that we need bigger ships and to go further and to get the other. So the government gave them the money to borrow to build bigger ships. And of course, as you know, they got down, the fish became fewer and fewer. So the government was loaning the money to buy better fish finders. So you can see what is happening. It's called, now, the collapse of the fishery, is that an environmental issue? Certainly is. But with all those fishers, the people who had borrowed millions of dollars to buy boats and better fish finders and so on, the whole area became destitute. The canneries, the fishing product, that went under. So that became a social collapse, an economic collapse. So you're right. It's how do we deal with these things? Because it's very, very clumsy. So you've pointed out the idea that by definition, a wicked issue is one that when you try to solve it, like climate change, if we really go into climate change, it means that, for instance, oil that you're using to generate electricity here in Malaysia is creating problems for climate change, right? If you stop using the oil, that's income into the country. So some of your social programs will have to be cut. See, it's not that it's not doable, but it means that we need compassion, we need thinking, and we need the collective action of people. And the students and so on who are sitting in this room will be the leaders who will have to try and tackle some of these problems in the future. Okay? But let's, as adults, let's not put this on our children. Stand up now ourselves and be part, alongside with them, and work with them and give them all the skills, the knowledge, and the ability and the confidence they can to match the world they're going to face. Thank you very much.
We would once more like to thank Professor Charles Hopkins for the insightful lecture, as well as the answers that he gave. We would also like to thank everyone who participated in the question and answer session. And now, we move on to the plenary session.
It is indeed another privilege for us to have distinguished guests for our plenary session today. I would like to invite the following panelists to the stage. Tuan Haji Muhammad Asmi bin Juhari,
Dr. Mi Chai Wong Deng,
Ms. Catherine Cole,
Mr. Callum Mackenzie,
and Associate Professor Dr. Suraya Hani Mokhtar. And Dr. T, please join me.
No, okay, no, yeah. Please join us as we welcome our moderator, Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Shahram Tengku Shahdan, who will be guiding the discussion for this plenary session.
Hello. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrofil anbiya'i mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajmain. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to all. I am so happy that I'm not one of the panel members, because if not, the presentation by Prof. Charles Hopkins is very difficult to follow through. Anyway, my name is Tengku Shahrum bin Tengku Shahdan. Colleagues call me Dr. T, and I'm given the responsibility to moderate this session, our plenary session. And we have with us really esteemed, knowledgeable, experienced ladies and gentlemen here. And I'm not sure why I am here, but as I told Mr. Callum Mackenzie just now, I'm happy I'm not the one that's going to deliver any presentations, and they are the one that has to talk. I will just say, go for it. Let me introduce to you all our respected members of the panelists today. Right at the end there, we have Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi bin Johari, and Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi bin Johari has more than 33 years working experience with Tenaga Nasional Berhad, Malaysia, the largest power utility company in Malaysia. It's very strange. And it is very strange, and yet at the same time, very revealing that a power company is willing to be together with us for SDG conference, which means that we know that at least we are in the right direction with the support of even a power company. And in 2003, Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi pursued his master's degree in project management from USM. And he was then assigned to Shuba North Power and Water Cogeneration Plant in Kuwait, and then moved to Sabia OCGT Power Plant in Kuwait, and is now currently, since March 2023, appointed as the plant general manager for Tuanku Jaafar Power Station, Port Dickson, Malaysia, and is also a representative of one of our collaborating partners for this conference. And he is actively promoting green initiatives at his Tuanku Jaafar Power Stations with mangrove and tree plantings, turtle conservations, rain harvesting, waste recycling, energy and water saving. So we are so happy that a power generation company would like to do this. It bodes well for our SDGs. And he's also, on a personal capacity, he told us that he started his green journey at home by installing rooftop solar power PV installations, rain harvesting, food waste recycling, as well as now opting for EV as his EV car for his transportation. So let's give a big appreciation. Welcome to Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi. And our second panel there is Associate Prof. Dr. Michai Wong Deng from the Faculty of Education, Prince Songkla University. His work as an instructor of English and EFL, English for Foreign Language teaching methodologies at the Faculty of Education of Prince Songkla University in Thailand for more than 10 years now. And his work both with students and also in secondary and tertiary levels. And his doctoral degree is from the School of Education, Durham University, UK. Research interests includes promotion of self-regulation and other learner-centered approaches in EFL pedagogy. And today we will see what PSU have in store to share with us in SDGs and education, inshallah.
And we have a young, handsome representative. I don't know what he's doing in Thailand. Mr. Callum Mackenzie. Mr. Callum Mackenzie is the co-founder and managing director of UNUS Thailand. Also sits on the steering committee for UNUS Professional Masters in Social Business and Entrepreneurship, and teaches on the UNUS Practicum, and has a diverse range of experience from working in social business and international development sector in more than 10 countries around the world, with organizations such as World Bank, USAID, Action Aid, and European Institute for Cooperation and Development, and as well as a UK government. He holds a degree in master's degree in international development from Science Po Paris, Science from Po Paris. I'm not sure what that is. It's a university. He says it's a university, so let's take it as a university. And bachelor's from Queen's University Belfast in conflict studies. I have an uncle who teaches in Queen's University Belfast. And next we have I don't know. They use Miss? Do I use Miss? Miss Catherine Cole, who is the co-chairholder of the UNESCO Chair in Reorienting Education towards Sustainability at York University in Toronto, Canada. She's also the focal point for Sustainable Development Goal SDG 4, Quality Education, of the Higher Education and Research for Sustainable Development Global Cluster, led by International Association of Universities. Wow. Currently, Catherine is also completing her PhD thesis with a focus on education for sustainable development, ESD, at guess where? Guess where? I mean, she's working in Toronto, Canada, at the International Islamic University in Malaysia. So she's been coming here a couple of months every year. But she says that when she comes here, she's supposed to do her PhD writing here, but she can't. She can only do it in Canada, because here the IIUM asks her to do all these type of things, more than writing her PhD. So, and her background is in law and management, and previously was an executive coordinator for UNESCO Chair at York University, managing director of German Commission for UNESCO, and as a strategic advisor to the Vice Chancellor of University of Düsseldorf, Germany. So thank you for your willingness to be with us. And last but not least, my colleague, respected colleague, Associate Professor Dr. Suraya, and from Albukhary International University, of course. And Dr. Suraya Khanim Mokhtar holds a PhD in finance from Lincoln University, New Zealand. Her PhD research topic is on microfinance performance in Malaysia. And based on her PhD findings, she collaborated with one of Malaysia's software developers to create financial management software purposefully for micro entrepreneurs. And since 2012 until now, she's been actively involved in social business, in building micro entrepreneurs, especially in the rural areas, on financial literacy, and her research areas interests are in the field of microfinance and social business. And currently, she's very passionate with social business. She is the main driver for our foray into social business niche in Albukhary International University. And she's also currently holding the post of Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation in AIU. So again, welcome and thank you for all of you for willing to be panel members. And we can start from the end, or we want to start with the most handsome of all the handsome. We'll start with Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi, who will be talking about what he and his company is doing, TMB is doing in terms of sustainable development. You can use the rostrum, or you can, you can use the lectern, or it's up to you. You can, maybe easier for you to use the lectern.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Tengku Sharum, for the introduction. All distinguished guests and all participants, a very good afternoon, very good morning, good afternoon, good morning to all of you. The question from, before I answer the question just now, yesterday before I came to Alor Setar, my wife told me whether should I drive a normal car or just use my EV. So I told her, because I come for SDG conference, so I need to use my EV car. So, but this morning, Prof mentioned that whether EV is really green or not. So it's green because the power is from my solar PV, my rooftop solar. So it's green. Okay. Just the scenario of the current energy in Malaysia. Almost 60% of the fuel source currently is from coal. 35% is from gas. From hydro is about 4.5%, very less. And from solar is about 1.6%. So the rest, I think 0.2% from other source like biomass and maybe some of oil. But we already removed the oil, Prof. In early 2000, I think we removed all the power plant that we used to use medium grade oil to generate power. So now I think no more medium grade fuel oil power plant in Malaysia, except for some other combined cycle plant, which I think run on gas, but they use distillate or diesel oil as standby fuel. So, looking at this scenario, you total up was almost 60% on coal, plus 35% on gas. So it's not sustainable. It's only less than 7%. About 7% of the total generation is from green hydro and solar PV. So, realizing this situation, I think government has launched the National Energy Transition Roadmap last year, in August last year. We need to achieve a net zero emission by 2050. Actually, before the government come up with the net zero target, TMB, I think already come up with in 2016, we come up with the Reimagining TMB. Can you next? And then we follow up, okay, next. Okay, this is I mentioned just now. Okay, next. Okay, this is the plan that for our country. The starting point is in 2020 when we form TMB Power Generation Sinar Berhad, or we call it GENCO, which the company that we are working now. Okay, at that time, per the initiative, we divided it into 3 phases to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by maximizing what we have. The asset that we have, we do upgrades and all this to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. And then the second phase is to lower the gas greenhouse emission, and then the third phase is to neutralize. What happened is that by 2025, put that, we no more, at least from 21, no more new generation will be on coal. We already stopped that. So the last, it was in 2019. So the PPA will end by 2044. That's the last. Our commitment is that by 2035, there will be a 45% reduction in coal. I mean, no more, half of the coal generation will be removed from the system. So that will be replaced by green energy. Now, the government will entrusted TMB and TMB GENCO to do hybrid hydro floating solar. All the lakes that we have, where we generate the solar, the hydro power, we also put the floating solar on the lake, so that we can, during daytime we use solar, and at nighttime we use hydro. There will be about 2,500 megawatt. At the same time, we also, the government also gave us to carry out this solar farm project. It's about 500 megawatt. That's the way forward. And at the same time, we also is now seeking that we are doing the carbon capture project. We also doing this battery, the storage system, the pump storage. By 2035, hopefully the emission intensity will be reduced by 35%. And by 2045, there will be coal-free in the country. No more coal. All that will be replaced. And then by 2050, we will hopefully we get this our aspiration to get green, totally 100% green for the country. In this case, TMB is in the forefront in doing this initiative. Hopefully, I will succeed with that. Okay, that's on the journey that, or what is in the pipeline now for the country in terms of power generation and our aspiration to achieve the net zero by 2050. Okay. Next. Okay, this is about the plan that I mentioned just now. What we will retire by 2030. There will be 2 big coal plants will be closed down, and by 2040, 42, and 44, there will be 100% coal-free. Okay, next. Okay, this is about the carbon emission. By 2035, there will be 30%, 35% down, and then by 2050, it will be zero. Okay, next. Just people say about, normally on the corporate, we are more familiar with ESG. Normally, what we do is that in our current, all the TMB annual report, all that we already merged, we already linked all these ESG initiatives with those SDGs. Okay, next. Okay, this is what it is. ESG about environment, social, and governance. So we link all these to all the SDGs that we talk about today. Okay, next. That's it. I think I go through past this. Next. Okay, this is about the plan that we are working now in Port Dickson. Next. 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 Okay, just about emission discharging. Last time there's nobody cares about emission. Nowadays, all our plants are directly connected to Department of Environment, 24 hours. Any reading that goes beyond the limit, we get a call from the department. We have to explain why the reading goes beyond the limit. So now the authorities are getting stringent, and they come after us. So we need to install all these SAM, continuous emission monitoring system, the predictive emission monitoring system, all that available in the plant. Okay, next. Okay, this is about preparedness and response in terms if there is any spillage. Next. Okay, the ambient air quality monitoring system, all the stack emission, all being monitored on a regular basis. Okay, next. About water quality as well. This is about SDG, about life below water. We do this every year. We need to submit the report to Department of Environment, reporting to them what is the status. But Alhamdulillah now, I think based on the assessment that we did, the fauna and flora there is getting better. In terms of the species that we have there is getting more. Even the turtles also is getting more there. Okay, next. This is about the community engagement. We did this with the Alam Sekitar, the recycling, the tree planting, the mangrove planting. Okay, next. Also the school, the Sekolah Lestari they call, sustainable school. Okay, next. This is about the cleaning of beach. Next. Okay, this is about the turtle that I mentioned this morning to Prof. We discovered that a lot of turtles coming to our cooling system from 2016 until now. Now the frequency is getting more. It shows that more turtles, they are around that area. I think tomorrow they will be taught by Mr. Syamuddin about the turtle conservation in that area. So normally what happens is that if the turtle comes to our area, we will we recover the turtles and we send to Mr. Syamuddin. He will treat and then maybe send back to the natural habitat. Okay, next. Okay, this is our the commitment from TMB as well as Genco. We'll do this the hybrid solar, the hydrogen ready plant, and we use also the empty fruit bunch as the mixed fruit. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. I think that's all. Just a little bit about the power generation status in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tuan Haji Muhammad Azmi. Fortunately for him, because he was the first speaker, I forgot to lay down the ground rules. Because of the time limits that we have, we'll try to have about 8 minutes of what you would like to present, and then once we have finished that, we will entertain questions from the floor, inshallah. So, do we go this way, or do we want to have one of the ladies first? So, can I invite one of the ladies, Miss Catherine? Just try.
Thank you very much. And first of all, a big shout out to all of you students out there. I have been so impressed. I spent the yesterday afternoon, and I must say, you're probably half my age, but your stories are so much better. And your stories are so much more interesting. So I just want to say what a privilege it is to be here. And I really mean that. Yeah, the importance of higher education, connecting the SDGs, connecting the 3-0 approach, and bringing this all together on a notion of social business. I think what is happening here is fairly unique, but it's a really innovative idea of going forward. If you consider the SDGs as your big framework, and as Charles pointed out earlier, the SDGs are not the first global action plan that exists. They're the third. And I'm pretty sure by 2030, and if you have ever heard anything about the UN, one thing is true about the UN, it is fairly slow, which means if we want to have a new plan in 2030, we will soon be starting talking about something new. And here is where 3 zeros and the social business idea come in so nicely from my perspective, from what I've seen in the last days. The world is changing. We all live in more uncertainty. None of us would have ever predicted that we would be living through through a global pandemic. No one would have ever predicted that we soon can have full conversations with AI. There's even talk about what is going to happen if people start getting married to artificial intelligence instead of human beings. We're living in a world of incredible change. And one thing that comes together with social business and that ongoing uncertainty are the skills that it takes to do that. And those are the skills that also connect us to higher education, and that are important in higher education. And this is what we're all hoping for you students, and also for all faculty and academics and practitioners in the room, because this is a world of lifelong learning. I'm over 40 and a student myself. This is what we're hoping, that we're learning to include, to learn to respect diversity, that we feel comfortable in this uncertainty, that we're able to adapt to all of the new circumstances that are coming, that we also at the same time are getting better at anticipating change and learning to live in it, that we remain critical, but that we still can plan and live in scenarios of possibility. And this is the world that we're in. So we have the SDGs, we are in higher education. You are the one that people trust when they have a problem. We are the honest brokers of truth. Whenever truth is searched, people look for research, right? They go look for evidence-based research. This is university. They're coming to us if they want valuable information and if they want to talk to people they trust. So we do carry a responsibility in us. And at the same time, we are so very privileged. We are the ones that can make a difference together. And creating that notion of making a point of going into the community, finding their problems. Their problems often are sustainability issues. They may not be clearly environmental, they may not be simply about recycling, but they might be deeply connected in questions of culture, diversity, sometimes even spirituality and religion. And there's a way of helping to solve that and creating a living out of that and connecting all of these skills that are brought up from the overall sustainable development movement that is out there into the local areas, understanding what's around us, creating the livelihood, and working with the community. So what we see here, those connections do not sometimes feel so obvious, but everything that we do is so deeply connected. And as I'm talking to the future politicians, I'm talking to the future social influencers. Number one in Canada, number one profession people want to be, social influencer. So you are the ones that are going to make a difference out there. And what is possible through your education, having been the other. You've been the other, coming from the Gambia, coming from Ghana, Nigeria, what else have we had? Japan, we had all of these countries. You have been the other here. You had to explain yourself. And that is again higher education. In higher education, we can be on the opposite ends of our opinions. But we are, with the skills that we learn, we are able to have that dialogue with each other. We are able to stay respectful, even and maybe never will be able to accept the other perspectives. But we at least have the responsibility, and we see that in one another, trying to understand why a person may have arrived at that opinion or at that perspective. And this is what you're learning here on the ground. It's the global citizenship that you are taking for granted on this campus, and that is something that we can spread out into the community. And I again just want to say I'm so very impressed about what I've seen here. It's a unique approach. Everyone should know about it. And I'm a believer of these future graduates here because they have gone through a transformative journey and they're going to be making a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And as Catherine said just now, one of the things is we have to respect diversity. And fortunately for AIU students, if you want to feel and know and learn about diversity, this is the place to come to. Okay, let me invite the next presenter, our youngest. I assume our youngest. I'm not sure. We invite Associate Professor Dr. Michai to deliver his presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. T, right, for this opportunity for me to talk here. And I think I'm very honored and delighted to have a chance to stand over here with the great-minded people, with the great thinkers right here in this auditorium hall. But please allow me to share my humble thoughts on how education can play a role in promoting growth sustainably. And listening to the talk from Professor Hopkins this morning, that really resonates with what I am today as an educator, as a person who works in education. And as Ms. Catherine said just now, this global agenda, this focus of education in the global agenda didn't start in SDG 2015. It dates back many years ago, decades ago. Please allow me to bring you back to 1990, to the EFA proposal, Education for All movement, declared in Thailand, in Jomtien, right, to encourage all the countries to focus on access to education as a universal right to everyone in the globe. And that has been maintained in the, that that marks the re-establishment of education in the global agenda, and that remains in the MDG, right, in the Millennium Goals, right, which also has education as also a very key factors to drive development forward. And now in the SDG 2015-2030, right, it was set in 2015, and the goal was aimed to be to be achieved, maybe wholly or partially, in 2013, which seems to be, to me, more comprehensive framework towards driving education as a force for global development, sustainable global development, right? It has got 7 targets that Professor Hopkins had shown this morning. Let me give you some example. It addresses equitable equality, primary and secondary education, early childhood development, gender equality, post-compulsory education, adult literacy, disabled people. If you see all the targets under this goal, the highlight over here is equity and inclusion. It's not only about the access to basic education anymore, but now the goals in the SDG 2013 see different dimensions that would really make education a driving force for sustainability, right? So why equity and inclusion matter? Why was it added as the significant addition to the MDG? Right. According to a report by the OECD in 2012, right, the highest performing education systems are those that combine equity and quality. And from the PISA examination result in 2009, countries like, the high-performing countries, for example, Finland, Canada, Japan, and Norway. There are many more high-performing countries, but these four countries, for example, are the high-performing countries with, which the result was not influenced by the socio-economic status of the students. That means, the education system tends to be more egalitarian, more equitable, all right? It doesn't mean that the rich students performing well, but the poor students are not doing very well. In these 4 countries, the result from both, for all groups of students tend to be more equalized. And this is why education and inclusion was very highlighted in the SDG 4 in this SDG as a whole. And so, please allow me to just remind all of us what exactly is equity. All right, so, and I think, I was told not to really have to prepare a slide. In fact, I would show a picture, a very classic picture that would really speaks about the difference between equity and equality, right? So equity is about fairness in opportunities rather than fairness in distribution, right? According to Arthur Hauter, 2009, a very great thinker in this field. So the distribution, the supports on education, in the past, we tend to think about the equal distribution, the equal opportunities for everyone. That is very good, but in the world today, that might not be enough. So we need to provide, of course, we need to provide support, provision, but this support should be, rather than giving equal support, we might think about to provide support that would give equal opportunities for people to succeed at the same target. So that's the idea of equity in education that we educators might need to take in mind. All right, and how equity in education might have some relationship or might relate to the economic growth as a whole, right? As Professor Hopkins said this morning, overall 17 goals are intertwined, but education might be one of the very important principle or fundamentals that might drive all to achieve. There's some evidence suggests that equitable education can benefit economic development. For example, when we reduce school failures, school dropouts, right, school failures, that leads to enhanced capacities to respond to challenges. And that, again, in turn, would lead to better or higher economic growth. A report, again, from OECD shows that for countries with high employment rates, usually the people with higher degrees, right, higher level of education, tend to be more in the employment sector. So that simply means, right, the higher education a person gets, a higher life opportunities they would have, right? So that's how education might play a role for economic growth in the long run. And students who have enriching school experiences will be more likely to stay in education, and there is a more tendency that they'll be successful in the labor market. And again, as we talk about the world today, I'll try to be quick, sorry. The VUCA world, or the Barney world, where the economic is very volatile, right? So, I mean, the world is changing very quickly. So education institutions need to play a role in preparing, equipping our future generations with the skills required with this uncertainty, right? So let me give some suggestions on how to promote equity for sustainable development. First, reducing school failure. So we need to start from the very early age. You have to invest in early years education, right? Because at those age, that's where their growth, their development grow very quickly compared to other phases of life. All right, and in case there are some educators, some school principals, some directors over here, according to the OECD's report, they advise against grade repetition. Some people might disagree on this, but some evidence suggests that grade repetition does not rate educational outcome. But on the opposite, this wider the inequality gaps. So alternative ways is to prevent repetition by addressing learning gaps during the school year rather than let them repeat a year. Or you might limit the repetition to the subject or modules rather than let them repeat a whole year. All right, and the second one is avoid early trackings. In the highly competitive society, we tend to push our kids forward and let them compete to the best schools, and these should not start early from kindergarten to primary education. This is not recommended by OECD. All right, and now, as educators, we need high quality teachers in education, and we will talk about teachers' retention. We might start to think about the incentive, the salary, but I think this needs to start early in the teacher training programs that need to really enrich the program with the capacities that teachers would need to develop our kids in the future, and also like the supporting network that would allow them to grow in their profession. Effective learning strategies, active learning strategies, formative assessment rather than summative assessment as a whole, and also the culture of not there yet rather than not my thing. This is the symbolic word I coined from the lecture of Professor Carol Dweck, who maybe coined the term growth mindset. So it's the idea that we have the ability to develop. We believe in the ability of humans to develop. If we can't do it the first time, it's just not there yet. It doesn't mean that it's not our thing. If we put more effort, one day, hopefully, we will succeed, right? This is the mindset that we need to put in our students in the future, right? And a few words. Okay. Our roles as institution that we have done, right? The special admission track that I think PSU in particular, and here AIU has done. There is a report again that, there are some groups of students underrepresented in higher education. And what AIU, I need to admire AIU for this, has been trying to do is to allow these underrepresented people, groups of students, to be in higher education. And that is a real effort to make education a driving force for sustainability rather than just another enterprise. And what PSU has done, in the past, the Muslim ethnic with Malay as their first language used to be underrepresented in higher education in Thailand, but with institutions like PSU and other areas around, other institutions around the area, now there are more of these kind of people in the higher education. And this means there are more opportunities for them to go back to their remote area, to be part of the leaders of the community, to improve the living situation of the people in the area. And also for us, Faculty of Education in particular, we have been producing teachers of the country who go back to their homeland, to their hometown, right? These days, teachers in the 3 southern border provinces, it's a profession that is highly demanded by students in the area, because these allow them to be in their location. They don't have to move to big cities, and that is also a way for them to instill in their future generations the value of their local wisdom and aspire them to be to develop as a global citizens. Well, I think I might precede time a little bit. I'll stop now. Thank you very much for your kind patience and listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I did not have the heart to interrupt because he was so energetic in his commitment to what he wanted to deliver. And one of the things that was touched was on equity of access, and which is what the foundation why AIU was established, was to, in a way, allow for equity in access. And let us hear from Mr. Callum Mackenzie about, initiatives from UNESCO Thailand and AIT.
Brilliant. Fantastic. I'll stand up as well. Well, it's a tough act to follow all of these fascinating presentations from this morning, and to my esteemed panelists as well. But just on the Sustainable Development Goals, firstly, someone once said to me that these are a diagnosis of all the problems in the world. They're a warning about what will happen if we don't address all these problems. They're also a vision for what a sustainable world could possibly look like, and they're a framework for action about how we can realize this vision. So quite an interesting way to think about this, but the most important thing with the SDGs, as we heard about this morning and also from our esteemed panelists, is the integration. They are a system. So we cannot look at one SDG without looking at how they interact or interrelate with the others. However, where does the 3-0 framework come in? Well, the reality is, unfortunately, that we are not on track to achieve the SDGs. We are significantly behind schedule. But we have 3 major megatrends that are happening right now. The first one is the impact of climate change. We're nearly 10 years on now from the Paris Agreement. And again, we're on track to really see, large parts of the world become uninhabitable. So everything we do when we look at the SDGs, no matter which SDG, should include an environmental focus. The second point is we are in a global inequality crisis. When we look at the COVID pandemic, the top 10 richest people in the world doubled their wealth. So we can't ignore this fact everywhere. So whenever you look at an SDG problem, or whenever you look at the SDGs, also think about how inequality comes into this, and how you can embed and mainstream addressing inequities and inequalities within this. And then the third big mega trend that we're seeing today is the rise of artificial intelligence and technology, as was previously mentioned. AI is going to see a huge amount of jobs disappear, whilst also by 2050, we'll have 9 billion people on the planet, particularly in places like your own countries in Africa and in developing places. So how are we going to address this as well? So also thinking about this when you're looking at the SDGs, how do we also think about the way AI and technology is going to influence this problem, not now, but in the next 3, 5, 10 years as well? Because as young people, we have to think about what is going forwards, how are these problems also going to develop? So you can start to see how these things kind of interact. But then where does social business come in to this aspect? So when we think about capitalism, when we think about business, this is about making profit, right? This is about the selfish, rational self-interest of economics. But social business is simply saying we are not always rationally self-interested. We also have a philanthropic human nature. We want to give. We get pleasure from giving. So how can we also use the engine of business with the purpose and drive of human nature to want to support, love, and care for one another, and use market mechanisms to provide the solutions we so desperately need? So this is the bedrock of how social business really connects with the SDGs, connects with the 3-0 vision. Using our creativity, applying the engine of business, and solving a social or environmental problem. But I think when we also talk about these grand frameworks or these grand challenges, such as the SDGs and 3-0s, these present to us huge mountains that we feel so small to climb. But the benefits and the positivity of entrepreneurial approaches means you need to start with your first customer. Start with how you can help just one person. So take these huge problems, take these big mega challenges, and think about how it affects just one person, and then come up with your solution. And then if you can help one person, then see how you can help 2 people, and then 4 people, and 10 people, and go on from there. It all starts with making the big challenges as small as possible and as doable as possible. And I think this really connects to what the meaning of life is. If you allow me to get a little bit philosophical here. Is the meaning of life about leaving the world a better place than how we found it? Is the meaning of life about being a positive influence of our environment around us? Or is the meaning of life really about, yes, those 2 first things, but actually just saying, do you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a go. So that's also the challenge I'd like to present to you young people today, is don't get scared by these big challenges. Figure out how to make them as small as possible and then attack them. Go for them. And really take that first step to being a solution provider. And I think as educators and as people, you know, it's our job to provide that supportive and enabling environment. And that's the fantastic thing about Albukhary and this great opportunity you have to be here today. And it's not just about providing the skills, it's about providing the character. How do we build courage? How do we build integrity? How do we build empathy? How do we build creativity and support that as well? These are all inside people. We just need to help bring it out within them. And that's the beauty of being here. The beauty of having that enabling environment and that supportive place at Albukhary, but also the work that UNOS does in Thailand, in Malaysia, all around the world, is that we're here to be that supportive partner, that supportive ally, that enabling environment for you, and take a first step, and we're here to support you. So I'll stop there, and I'll pass on to our esteemed moderator.
Thank you very much, Kelam. He's exactly on the dot with timing, and I like the point that solving problems starting with one person, and then two, and then finally the whole world. Sometimes we get too ambitious, and then we can't move because of what we see. It's like when we started to envision having this conference. Now, if we look at the whole conference, we would die without starting. But we started with one person, and slowly one committee, and now we are here, alhamdulillah, thank you. And last but not least, from the social business perspectives and education, we tie up all the SDGs and education and social business. Let's invite Associate Prof. Dr. Suraya Hanim Mokhtar for her thoughts in, especially in social business and SDGs in education.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Prof. Charles, for your keynote speech just now. Thank you, Catherine, for coming. Maybe I would like to take this opportunity to thank Prof. Munira, who persuading Prof. Charles and Catherine to come to AIU, and to all our agency and committee partners that we invite around Kedah, and we can see school children here and the teachers. Thank you so much for coming, and together we get benefit from the public lecture series that we organize occasionally. So there's lots of us talking about the 3 zeros, you know. Maybe I can explain a little bit about where the concept's actually coming from. The 3 zeros is actually an action. It's an action, a 3-0 approach, proposed or initiated by Professor Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Peace winner, and also the AIU Chancellor. Initially, the 3-0 is actions, starting with the individual actions, and it can be combined in collective actions. That's why they created the 3-0 Club. Is a club that consists of 5 persons at the age of 12 to 35 years old who has the similar ambitions and objective. Simple things, for example, there's a group of 5 people who start a 3-0 movement. For example, I don't want to take any plastic bag from the shopping mall anymore. So it starts from one individual, and then it's combined with the 5 people. So it's a movement from individual to a group of people. So this is what has been taught by Professor Muhammad Yunus about how we as an individual to take a role in achieving what we call the SDGs or the 3-0 world. So now we please take time and reflect. How is actually our individual action so far? What is our contribution as a person towards achieving the 3.0 or the SDG? Because most of the time, we always rely to the government in making policies and give us the directions. But how about us as the individual? And also, as a teacher, as a people in the higher learning institution, also in school, what avenue or platform we give to the students, to the young people here, in helping them in creating their own dream world, for example. That's why how the 3 zeros concept is coming about. And because of 3 zeros, it's so blended with the social business. Because social business is a business that we created to solve social issues. And at the same time, we're getting profit. So that's why in AIU, even though the concept of 3.0 is just the actions, but the student has moving one step ahead, where they create a business from the actions. I'll give you one example. There are a group of students who make the candle or the scented candle or the wax tablets made from the used cooking oil. So it starts from the action, actually. They give the awareness of, for us, especially the household, about saving or they give the awareness of do not throw your used cooking oil into our drainage system. So how we can use this used cooking oil and how we can purify this cooking oil to make into another products, which they try to make the scented candle. So they learn how to make it. They go and search how to purify the used cooking oil. And then they turn into a business where they sell this candle and the wax tablets to the market. So they collect the used cooking oil among the food stall sellers around AIU. So at first they just collect. So the seller just give them for free. Because now there's also an institution called EE Daman who also bought the used cooking oil, because now the used cooking oil can be turned into biodiesel. So the student also buy the used cooking oil from the seller. So they buy used cooking oil and then they turn into, they go to the lab and then they make the product. So they sell it. So this is what we call social business, a business that created in solving social issues. So here in this university, we provide them the knowledge of SDG, 3 zeros, and social business. We embed it in our curriculum, which is we teach in class. We have special courses that teach them about social business. So for example, we have social business 1 that we taught in the first year in AIU. So they have the general idea, the concept of this social business. And then we also encourage them to learning by doing. That's what Prof. Charles mentioned just now, experiential learning. Learning by doing, where the student, we encourage them to create the activity, start with the actions, and then turn the action into a business. So when we teach entrepreneurial skill in school, it's not enough only in the classroom. So we need to really utilize their time in school or in university to really learn and really do the business. So if they spend 4 years or 3 years in university, so they can, if they start the business from the year 1, so they have 2-3 years to experience. And it is okay, this is the time or the opportunity to make mistakes. So when they finish university, so they start, when they have learned many things during their university time. So this is the approach that we take in AIU, and we are very committed in achieving the 3.0 world or the SDG. And we take the opportunity of having students from almost 60 nationalities. So can you imagine all of them will go back to their country and become the agent of change, hopefully. So this is how we promote, we insert the importance of taking care of the environment or taking care of the social issues in our community to the students. We also have a group of students from Thailand, from southern Thailand. When they come to AIU, they have improved their English. And they know that in their kampong, in their village in Patani, Satun, Songkhla, the English proficiency is quite low. So how they can improve, and maybe because of the lack in English proficiency has caused low self-esteem, and they cannot get up from the poverty cycle. So because they have learned about social business and 3-0 activities in campus, so they go back after they graduated. They go back to their village, and they start teaching the English to their community. So this is how we educate the student here from their first day of university life until they graduated, how to give benefit to the society and what actions they will do that will give also benefit to the environment. So this is how especially in the educational sectors, school and university, we need to give option to the student, give them the choices. Okay, so like us, we give them, because we are part of the UNO Center, so we give them the opportunity to participate in 3-0 clubs. And now we have around 3-0 clubs around the world with a similar motive and action towards achieving the 3 zeros. So hopefully there are many of you that can also interested in also establish your own 3-0 club in school. Please contact us. I can send some of the 3-0 club here to go to your school, and together we build our dream world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suraya. And she touched on the example of some of our ex-students who established, and actually they didn't just teach English, they have set up a business, a learning academy right now, and they even hired our own graduates. So our graduates hired our AIU graduates to teach teach English in southern Thailand. Okay, as we are running out of time, now let's open for questions from the members of the floor. And if you have any questions, there you have a microphone there. And I'm not sure whether we probably have one or two questions time left available. So please do and you can address it to any of our panelists or to all of them. Yes, we have one. Dr. Sulaiman.
All right. Okay, thank you for the sharing session, the insight. My question is on SDG goal number 4, which is quality education. From this morning presentation by Professor Hopkins, we are made to understand that SDG goal number 4 is the most important among all the SDG goals. However,
can you raise your voice a little bit?
Okay. However, the progress made so far in achieving SDG goal number 4, which is quality education globally, has not been fast enough, especially before COVID. And after COVID, almost the same trend. Based on the data from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the progress level is about 50-something%. And even at that, there's high inequality among the regions. There's a wide gap between the progress in Europe and sub-Saharan Africa. Europe with about 86% and sub-Saharan Africa with about 29% progress level. So my question here is, does it mean that there's something wrong with the measures taken or the approaches in achieving this important SDG goal? Because I consider it to be enabler or key enabler of other SDGs or SDG goals. So does it mean that there's something wrong with the approaches or the measures being taken to achieve this goal? Because we are less than 6 years away from 2030, and the progress level is around 50-something%. Or does it mean that we need to start doing something, or we need to start doing what we are doing differently to achieve this target? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sulaiman, for your question. Any takers? Because as Prof. Charles Hopkins said just now, until 2020, we've only achieved 15% of the SDG goals. How do we have to relook at, and how do we do? What's the approach going forward to make sure we can achieve it faster?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a head start. Thank you very much for this question, and thanks again for all the distinguished panelists. It was very interesting to listen. Regarding SDG 4, yes, indeed, we are not where we would have to be, and often it is unfortunately a question of financing. We are not yet investing enough funds into education. That is a simple technical problem, and we cannot yet. UNESCO and also the United Nations are really pushing for education investment. We have not yet overcome it. The second question, I think, is one of looking at access to education and quality education in itself. We have, over many decades, we have looked into getting everyone into school, which has been important and which has been successful. But what kind of education are people receiving in school? Education is one of the topics where a lot of people think they can discuss it just because they have also received education. And it's often very difficult to leave it to the experts because everyone has an opinion. It's similar in media and design because everyone has taste and personal taste, they have an opinion. So it's very difficult to have those focused education discussions and not just look into getting more people into the system, but at the same time transform the system as we go without losing the teachers that out of a sudden don't feel comfortable teaching anymore, and losing the parents that exactly think because they've also been in education and know what the best education for their children is. So it's a very difficult balancing act that education is always in, having to make the change on the go without losing public support, without losing public funds, and have the people in it that are comfortable sharing and teaching a curriculum of that sort. So that's my first take on that question.
And Caleb?
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything Catherine's mentioned. I think just to add one extra point as well, because we live in a world of information now. So, of course, maybe in some rural areas, this is harder to access than others, but increasingly so, information is becoming more and more and more accessible. So I think one key leverage point that can be really prioritized in this new context is teaching students how to learn. So if you can teach students how to effectively learn information then this is already a transformative way in terms of how the boundaries of existing educational infrastructure is less limiting as it was previously when we're not utilizing this new context. So just one short point, but that also relates into, how do we then train teachers as well? How do we train teachers to teach students how to learn?
Thank you very much. I think we've got a signal from the Secretariat that we have transgressed the boundaries of time given to us, unfortunately, and we do feel that we should have more of this type of discussions, especially from panels, esteemed panel. Hello, like we have assembled. But I'm very happy to hear, especially from our power utility companies that are saying we're going to go away from coal and making forays into SDGs, climate change. And we heard also from our Prince Auckland University talking about equity, access, and thank you very much, all our members of our panel. And please, especially those AIU students and students who are from schools who are here, take up the invitation by Associate Prof. Dr. Suraya to start with yourself and your friends to form 30 clubs, to basically all of us take charge, do something. Start from us and change something, and then go to others, and let's all as communities, the whole community, do our efforts to ensure that we are able to achieve the SDG goals, because whether we like it or not, it is for our own sustainability in terms of life and environment, and in terms of being able to leave a legacy, a better legacy to our future generation, inshallah. And thank you very much, panelists. My apologies for rushing you and stopping with you time, and my apologies also to our audience for not allowing you more time. Thank you, everybody. We hope we had a nice time. And please, for those who are members or participants of the conference, you can get more of these discussions in the parallel sessions that will be held this afternoon from 2 onwards. So please make sure we take this opportunity that that's given to us. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, panelists, and that's all for now. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you very much to all our panelists for an engaging session and sharing your valuable expertise with us today. what I can conclude from the plenary session just now is that the world is changing, which we cannot predict any global pandemic or any issues in the future. And thus, we need to start now and ask the future generation who is going to take action to solve those issues. And as the token of our appreciation, we have prepared a souvenir for our esteemed speaker and plenary panelists.
Now, we would like to take this moment to once again invite our dear Emeritus Professor Dato Dr. Abdul Aziz bin Tajuddin, Vice Chancellor of AIU and President. Please welcome to the stage our Vice Chancellor to present the souvenir to Professor Charles Hopkins. Please give a warm round of applause for our esteemed speaker, Professor Charles Hopkins. And now, we would like to welcome the panelists on stage once more. Tuan Haji Muhammad Az bin Johari.
Let's welcome to the stage to Dr. Miche Wongdang.
Miss Katrine Cole.
Next, we have Mr. Callum Mackenzie.
last but not the least, our dear Associate Professor, Dr. Suraya Hanim Mokhtar. Good vibes. Good vibes, everybody.
And we have also our Associate Professor, Dr. Tengku Syahram Tengku Syahdan, who will be guiding.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take a minute of your time to capture this beautiful moment with a photo session. Please show us your greatest smiles.
Hadirin sekalian,
may we all please move to the center. Ladies and gentlemen, may we please move to the center.
Hadirin sekalian, sebelum pulang, jangan lupa untuk melawat ruang pameran di sebelah kanan Dewan, yaitu pameran 30 Club dan Social Business Initiative oleh AIU.
Ladies and gentlemen, after this PLS lecture, we would like to invite you to the booths in the foyer to take a look at the amazing social businesses that we have on campus representing our 30 clubs. Now, this is the end of our public lecture series 6. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank everybody for your time, as well as for your patience, and for those who are watching online through YouTube.
And last but not the least, we would like to end this event by a pantun.
Bunga tetap di atas para, anak dusun pasang pelita. Kalau tersilap tutur bicara, jemari disusun maaf dipinta.
Very well. Buah rambutan untuk dimakan, simpan sedikit buat Cik Siti. Silah dan silap harap dimaafkan. Ada jodoh berjumpa lagi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now be breaking for lunch and networking. But before we go, we would like everybody to know that the breakup sessions will be happening in the School of Business and Social Science buildings. The rooms have been assigned as follows.
To those who will join the parallel paper presentation session from 2 until 5:15 p.m., this session will take place at the School of Social Business building, which assigned rooms are as follows. Room 1, Sarawak Room, ground floor. Room 2, Penang Room, ground floor. Room 3, Johor Room, ground floor. Room 4, Malacca Room, ground floor. Room 5, Kedah Room, ground floor. Room 6, Selangor Room, ground floor. And then we have room 7, room 306 in level 3, and the last one is room 8, which will be in room 307 in level 3.
Thank you very much, and we apologize for any inconveniences or any mistakes that we have made or the organizing team. Have a good lunch and see you later. Bye.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.